What's going on YouTube? This is part 2 of the Lost Chapter series on my channel, and today we're going to be looking at Deuce, however you want to call her. Now, something I forgot to mention in the previous video is that there's always a certain 3 sets of characters that are usually boosted, and they can help you during the Lost Chapter event if you're struggling. They have boosted stats, and a lot of the times they can cap out on damage if they're already woke, or they do more damage in general bravery, so they need less taken care of. Main problem of this one, and it's going to be the Kraken. With this boss, you're going to be restricted entirely to magic, and the reason for that is because of this one move right here, Counter Fire. Counter Fire, what it does is that when you attack with a melee or a ranged bravery attack, and it also includes HP with bravery attacks, so don't try to be cute, he uses the counter for Raga, which removes all buffs, including in-frame buffs, from your teammates. So not only will you most likely be at 0 bravery, meaning that they'll set them back, but you'll lose all your buffs. So they really are encouraging you, well, not really encouraging you, they're kind of locking you to not using melee and ranged characters. And there's 2 of them. So your main issue with this Lost Chapter is going to be just dealing with their life. They kind of have a lot of HP. But this one's not too difficult. Their main things that you want to focus on with these guys are going to be the bravery and HP attacks that they do, multi-slash, because they soften up your teammates before they take a lot of damage, potentially, if they're not kept up with their bravery. And the other one that's not a really good one is dealing with cleansing, because on top of just completely shutting off range and melee, they shut off their debuffs, frames included. Now, this is a really big advantage for them, because they can't really be locked down unless you constantly push them back. But the problem that you'll notice with these Chaos events is that a lot of them, they usually have this as a passive. So you cannot stop this, even if you Immediately them all the way 50 turns or whatever. This is a passive that'll kick in, so they'll automatically ruin their debuffs. So you kind of have to compensate for that. So my strat for this one is going to be Ultimecia, Beatrix, and Charlotta. And my strategy is going to be just not letting them ever attack. Ultimecia does a ton of damage by herself, because with the new LD that she got, she has tons of turns. Beatrix is sort of like a pseudo tank healer because of her HP regen, but at the same time she gives a lot of bravery reduction damage. So she makes the team semi-tanky. And with Charlotta, she batteries the team and can do a lot of damage with herself. Also, what I wanted to show you is, if you notice here, if you don't already know, I assume my audience is going to be newer players or people that haven't tackled Chaos, is that if this is a symbol that you see for element, right, this only means that they have a greater resistance to it. It does not mean that they absorb it, right? Because there's 2 other phases that they have for this. There is the one that they absorb any type of damage of this kind, and then there's another one that's just an X. They neither resist it, but you just do no damage of that. Now, this is very important because this type of damage can be overwritten if you have an Impaler and an Enchanter. So for this particular enemy Flan, if I had a problem with this one, I could whip out, let's say, Onion Knight. And Onion Knight would completely ignore this, and you could get away with it. However, let's say I wanted to use Lulu for this. I could not use Lulu because even though she's magic, they resist the element. They absorb the element. And even if I were to imperil them with it, they would only cancel out the element. So she would do literally no damage. So try to remember this when you're trying to make a team comp. Really quickly, I want to show you guys my artifacts here. I prefer the Sorceress from the Future boost, but 330s are good as well. Tech 108s definitely. Maxed out everything. We're gonna go to Beatrix real quick, and then for her it's Continent's Finest Boost and 108s. But I'm not really gonna grind to make her perfect just yet. She has an LD mana coming out, which will make her much better. For Charlotta, I believe there's a mix of stuff that you want with her. I have, but let's get started. Also, no assist. We want to do this, if we can, just ourselves. And I chose Shiva in particular because the attack boost is really great for both Ultimecia and Beatrix, because their passives do make them a little bit tankier, and they're 180 bosses, so they're gonna have natural defense. But the other is the speed boost while bravery less than initial bravery. This is really great for Ultimecia because she's gonna be taking up a lot of turns. This on top of Beatrix is they get a bit of bravery regeneration, but not enough where it passes their initial brave. So the speed boost kicks in for both Beatrix and Charlotta. Because although she gives bravery regen back, it's not enough to hit the initial bravery threshold where it's over this this requirement for Shiva's speed passive kick in. So these two get more turns than usual, and it helps Ultimecia when she doesn't have any brave. So let's start. Now, the mid-boss in this challenge is actually fairly easy. They're very weak. It's also 2 worms, but you can easily take them out. Now, we're going to start off with a Shockwave Pulse here so we can get her Sorceress stacks up and get her Maleficium. Here, we're just going to not use any abilities if we can, because we can take them out, so it's not necessary. And same thing with Ultimecia. Another really good thing about the synergy on this team is their stacks don't really fight each other as far as their frame buffs. The only one that really fights each other is Charlotta and Ultimecia, kind of, because Charlotta gives one when she uses Crystal Wave Core, but it's negligible enough because Ultimecia is going to be capping regardless, which is also why I chose Shiva and not like the brothers, for example, because Ultimecia will automatically cap on. She's the main source of the carry for this one. Okay, but now with the worms. So what we're going to do here is we can just Protean Swords. And you see she's already doing 999 damage, she's doing 999 capped max brave, so it literally doesn't matter. It would have been irrelevant for her to have the brothers, therefore I picked Shiva. You could also use Leviathan. I'm starting to become a lot more fond of Leviathan, but it's all preference, you know, most of the time. Sometimes Leviathan is really, really good. And always keep an eye, these are all, the unframed are, what's her name, Beatrix's buffs, and then the frames you want to especially keep an eye on for Ultimecia because it kind of dictates how you're going to continue forward. So here, I know that I can kill if I use an HP attack, but this one's going to attack me. But it literally doesn't matter because of our turn count, so we're just going to HP attack. We're going to be a little stingy there with our abilities, but again, doesn't matter. 2900 damage because it's all he can get back. And then we're just gonna Thunder Slash him here. I could HP attack plus, but we want to get him out the way as soon as we can. Because we're also on a timer for our frames. We want to always keep them in mind. And the health regen, this is also why we didn't need Alexander, because we have life regen from Beatrix. She's a great unit. She's just, she really needs her LD is all. Which is coming soon. I'm very happy. So I would refresh your buffs here, but we can do that in the next fight. So we're gonna just keep going here. Again, I'm being relatively cheap with my abilities. I don't want to use too much, but it's more for the long game, you know? And then here, Charlotta can break these guys, so here I'm gonna reset my buffs because I know we're gonna take them out this turn. Right, so here you would normally go for something easy, but now I'm going to look at Ultimecia. Sorceress and Maleficium are both up, but she's missing, I believe it's Griever Magics, but this only comes for her Apocalypse, but it's going to come up if I use an ability. So I'm going to actually use an ability here, because what I want to do is have Apocalypse up for the next big boss battle. So I'm gonna confuse Charlotta, which is not the end of the world. Annoying, but it's okay. Alright, so we got all our buffs up, at least for Beatrix. She is missing one, but that's okay. So she's gonna go for a bravery attack, which is her battery, which helps us regardless. And we always want Clam Hazard ++. So we're gonna go for this move. I'm gonna break them both. Now, see, I'm only doing like 4k with Beatrix. Now, check this out. We're gonna do a bravery regen because we also have 3 turns left. We don't have to use Shockwave Pulsar just yet, but Apocalypse gives us, I believe it's 4 turns altogether. 3 turns, okay, including Apocalypse itself. So we're gonna cast a debuff. That brings our Maleficium back up, but we have 1 and 3 left. So always check if you don't already know, because I was initially thinking this was Noble Loyalty and this was Sorceress, but it's the opposite. So I know that after this turn I have to go for the LD because I lose on tons of damage, which is perfect because her turn's over after this. And again, here there's no threat between the two that's greater than the other, unless you want to consider the one that's attacking the greater threat. But now her buff is back, and then this is Noble Loyalty, which Beatrix can give back when she does, I believe it's Thunder Slash. Yeah. So we don't have to worry about an HP attack because we're gonna push him back anyway. So now we got all the possible buffs we can get on Ultimecia that we want. So we also loop this again with Apocalypse. This is what makes Ultimecia so fantastic. This LD it saved her so much. So here we're just gonna go for Protean Swords. It's gonna be her main source of damage on top of Divine Judgment, but Protean is really good for singular damage. We're gonna keep this up because by the time her turn's over, she's only gonna need, I believe, 1 more move to get her back to Apocalypse again. Yeah, so yeah, so she didn't get Apocalypse just yet, but even when she's confused, she still helps the team because we tank this. He's gonna go for a buff. So Charlotta being confused is not the end of the world. Now, we're also gonna go again for another Apocalypse rotation. So their buffs are still there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for Protean on the one on the left. Go for the one on the right, and we're gonna actually use our summon because Charlotta's crystal is gonna max out very soon. But the only problem, actually no, we're gonna wait because she's still confused. So we're gonna use a Hell's Judgment here. And we have to remember now, one of her buffs just went away, so I have to check her. So we don't have to play it safe still. I want to refresh the buffs because they're off of Ultimecia. And then she's gonna Brave Battery us one more time. Oh, never mind. I think I got confused. That's okay. Alright, so now we check her debuff. So she still has Sorcerers, Grievers, and Maleficium. She has 2 turns of Sorcerer, so I don't have to use this just yet. The LD. We're gonna loop again. And then we get a free turn, so we're gonna use the Protean again. And now we just ran out. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do Shockwave. And now that Charlotta's cured from her confusion, we're actually going to do Summon here. This is so that we can tap out on max damage as much as possible. Alright, so 58. We now kind of want to focus on A, just because he's really close to death. Now, what we're going to do here, it's unfortunate that she lost her buff, but we're actually going to use 2 turns. Because overall, this does more damage than Beatrix could do by herself. So I think it was a worthwhile use of her turns. And then here, we're going to use Apocalypse again. Now, it's okay that Beatrix doesn't go. She's not here for damage to begin with, so. Now she's gone. she did her roll anyways with follow-up. Lots of damage. Alright, so now we're going to try to take... Since we are in summon form, we can actually cap out on damage with Hell's Judgment. It's the only time she can get 999s with that move, because the overflow is not that great without the summon overflow. Alright, so now he's literally never going to attack again with all this. He gave himself a buff, but it literally doesn't matter. So we're going to Protean again. We're going to Bravery here because 700 damage is nothing. And then for her, we're going to do Climb Hazard, ++. Always want to try to get Climb Hazard, ++. She gets the buff back again. Alright, and then we're going to Light of Crystal. She was missing that buff, I'll tell you what. And then we're going to do her C65. And then we're going to Crystal here. Cap on her damage as much as you can. Tons of damage right there. And then again, we're gonna Apocalypse. And she just puts the enemies in this blender of Apocalypse in all the time. And now I know I'm gonna kill. So we're just gonna try to spam Protean. We're gonna do Shockwave. And then we're gonna end off with the Hell's Judgment. But yeah, that's all it really takes. All you need is a strategy that can kind of counteract them. And for mine, it was just not really letting them ever attack because I don't want to deal with their shenanigans. And I didn't bring any debuffers because they can always cleanse it off. So this was my team. I think Ultimecia was the hard carry. I think we were kind of overkitted because we still have plenty of moves, but that's the nature of the game because our standard of power is increasing. So, you know, this is going to be just a viable team probably in Lufenia. But yeah, that was Deuce's Lost Chapter. Thank you so much guys for watching. And the next one we'll get into will be, I believe, Agrias. So stick around for that guys. Later.